What's going on, everyone? I'm just your typical average, everyday Canadian nerd, here to react to your typical average American man, here to react to Canadian Public School, a video originally recorded 9 months ago. And, well, it's probably going to reflect something that is different from what you grew up with, what I grew up with, and more reflect what youth of today are growing up with, which I am not familiar with since my nieces and nephews are homeschooled. So, with that out of the way, let's get this picture out of the way and get this video underway.
What's going on, everyone? I'm just an average American here today to react and learn about public schools in Canada. Now, all I can talk about public schools is my experience with public school in America. I did go to public school throughout my entire education in America.
Not throughout America.
Until, university, which you pay for, and it's not really considered a public school.
Correct.
And when I think about public school in America, I think it's okay.
It's okay.
All right. I think, like what is probably the case in Canada, is public school can be quite hit or miss on average.
True. I mean, yeah.
It's funded by the government. Now, one of the things that's going on in America that is
regional.
a humongous issue, and truthfully a real issue, is that teachers in public schools are not paid well at all. They're
accurate.
Paid horribly, actually, for one of the most important jobs one could ever have.
Same here.
Teaching the future of the country. So,
oh yes, the children are the future. And that's why a lot of people are abandoning the present, because the future doesn't look so good.
It's kind of strange that the ones we're trusting to teach and care for our children on a day-to-day basis and get them ready to inherit the country as the next generation, we're not paying them well, which is very strange to me.
This is the way.
I don't know if that's the case in Canada. I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but...
education and healthcare are some of the first things to get funding cut when we start having budget imbalances, and we are in an unbalanced budgetary period at the moment. And, of course, that's right when Parliament takes a summer vacation. They'll be back in September.
Since it's kind of related, there you go. I am interested to just get a general sense of what public school is like in Canada. Like I was trying to say earlier, you get fantastic teachers. You get teachers that are just kind of there. You get interesting experiences being with just the general public in school. Private schools, America has private schools where you can get your education throughout your entire elementary school, middle school, and high school. You could do it privately. Your parents pay for it.
It's here as well.
Considered more prestigious, more selective. You're with certain people. But I think there's a lot of benefit to being in a public school because you get a lot of real world experience.
That can be a blessing and a curse, and both at the same time.
Some bad, a lot of good, and it gets the job done. Look at me now.
We're looking.
Turned out okay, I guess.
Hey, so yellow shirt says a lot.
I'm interested to see what's it like in Canada. Is it different? Is it the same? What?
It's musical. All you need to know.
Hi guys. Today I want to tell you about schools in Canada and how it works, how you can put your kids in the school, when you have to apply and when you have to send all documents.
Okay, fair. From a parent's point of view.
In Canada, kids can go to school when they are 4 years old.
4 years old. I think that's around, oh gosh, I'm not good at this stuff. That sounds about right, when an American kid would go to kindergarten.
Yeah, here in Canada, we have 2 levels of kindergarten. There's junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten. Of course, I'm talking about Ontario, and Quebec is a different animal. I'm just assuming that there are differences from province to province as well. But I know that it's only Quebec that does the cégep.
The very first time they'd be in a public school. Yeah.
Sometimes you can keep them at home.
Oh yeah, homeschooling is a whole different thing. I'm sure that exists in Canada, where
Absolutely.
you just don't want your child to go to school. You just want to, the parent becomes the teacher, and they are given educational materials, tests, and exams to basically teach their child at home for their whole life or part of their life or whatever they want.
It doesn't exactly work like that, but basically, yes.
Totally a thing. I've known some other kids who were homeschooled when I was younger. Yeah.
For 1 year, and then you have to send them to school.
Oh, you can do it for 1 year?
Sometimes you can keep them at home for 1 year.
Oh, that's just skipping junior kindergarten.
Send them to school, which belongs to your.
Oh, I don't know why you would do that. Just keep them out for 1 year and then send them to school. It seems like you'd want to get them used to it as early as possible, probably.
District where you live. So
yeah.
every single address related to some schools. You can send your child to another school or to another town or another part of your city, let's say.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly how it works in America. You live in a certain area, and your address basically corresponds to some kind of public school near you, and there's a bus system where school buses know to come by your address or somewhere near your address. That's a whole fun thing, getting to run off to the bus stop.
Same here.
And catch the bus, and it's based on where you live. But if you want, you could take your child to a different public school.
There's just no public transit available, so you have to do it yourself.
If you thought it was better or something, you'd have to drive them there, I suppose. But it's very similar.
That's why people choose carefully where they want to buy a house or
yes, exactly.
Where they want to rent it out.
Yes. People in America are very much thinking when they buy a home, well, this is going to determine where my child goes to school. And now you can hop on Google and stuff and Google the schools nearby and get their rating and all that stuff parents are obsessed with. For good reason, you want to know. But where you live matters. It determines where your child is going to be educated.
Because of schools, we have a website where you can check ratings for the schools, and it's very important. The higher rank the school has, the higher level of education they will get. And sometimes some schools
that's the idea.
They use the programs from university, and people from this school, they can go to university with no exams.
Oh yeah, that is true. If your school system did have some kind of relationship with a college or university or an advanced education program or something that you really wanted to have that opportunity available to your child, that would be a good reason to want to go to that school, for instance.
We have a few schools in Richmond Hill. They are one of the best in the area, in the GTA. And you have to choose carefully where you want to live when you come in here. Public schools, they are absolutely free. You have no payments, no obligations.
Right.
You have to bring your child, and you have to buy a backpack for him.
Easy.
Yeah,
other school supplies as well.
The same as in America. It's fantastic. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. This is one of the things America has gotten right and has not changed, is that public school education is free to everyone. You just have to make sure they get on the bus, get to school, and I mean, you do have to pay for their school supplies.
Right.
Although there are ways where if you really...
you also need to pay for their clothing. So it's all part and parcel, right?
Really needed help, I think the government would help you get school supplies.
And there's also clothing drives for the people who can't afford the clothing.
And you have to pay for their lunch at school, which is...
There's also food drives.
It's like a few dollars a day. But if you couldn't, again, I think there are public systems in America where you could get your child lunch to make sure they can eat. So that's
Being fed at public school is not common here in Canada. There's not much of a school lunch program to speak of. I think growing up, we had pizza days. We had insert corporate burger chain here days as well, where it was maybe one day a month that we would get some sort of delivery to class, but that was just our one class that was doing that. It wasn't a school program or anything national, not at all.
That's one of the most, I'm so glad it is like this, thank goodness. Every child in America should be given this level playing field of at least, you can go and have a public education for 12 years for free. Just show up and you'll get it. And then you will have access to opportunities in life in America.
That's the idea.
The theory, anyway. So I'm glad it is at least like that, even though the teachers are not paid well, which is strange.
Right.
And also, you have to bring lunches to school. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for anything. Schools are open approximately 8 to 9. Usually it's 8:30. And they
8 to 9 a.m.?
Opening
I
time.
swear the schools in America start at like 7 a.m. or something. I remember having to get up at 6 a.m. and get ready and go to the bus stop. I swear, I never understood it, but in America, you get out of public school at like 3 o'clock or something, which is actually really nice.
It's about that.
You can do after
here.
school activities, sports. You still have a large part of the day available, so...
Yeah, I remember, aside from the 1 hour long bus ride to and from school, after getting off school, I had a whole TV watching schedule for many years. Then again, I also grew up with maybe 10 TV channels. Half of them were French, so I really had to go day to day, figure out what shows are worth watching, which channel to go to, and if I missed it, then, well, I missed it.
Yeah, let's make the kids get up, whatever. As long as it's not me. I paid my dues. I got up at 6 a.m. for 12 years and went to school, so, they have to too.
And that's why I had to get up at that early, because not only was it wake up, have breakfast, and get all your things together to catch a bus, but then the bus ride was like an hour or so. And then it was everyone just kind of hang out outside until the bell rings, and then everyone lines up to go inside single file for some reason. I don't remember.
That's what...
It works until 3 to 4, depending on the area in the school.
Yeah.
3 to
So
4.
technically, if you work in parent, your working hours 9 to 5 usually, you have to find program or babysitting for before and after school.
Yeah, man, this is bringing back memories. I used to get home from school, and it'd be about 3 or 4, and I'd have to have a key or something, and sometimes I accidentally locked myself out of the house.
Known as a latchkey kid.
Or have a code to open your garage up or something. Yeah, man, good times.
And you have to pay for this. Some schools, they have rooms, so they have daycare in their facilities, so you have to pay for this program. Usually you have to apply for the school starting in January, maybe February of the year. And
oh gosh, I don't know anything about all this. Having to apply to schools.
See, Tyler and I were not parents at this time, so we're not familiar with this application process.
All that. But it makes sense. I assume it's roughly the same.
How it
probably.
works. In the school, can go, let's say kids, we're talking about junior kindergarten right now, they can accept kids who will be 4 years old by the calendar end of the year, by December 31st. Even if your kid will be 4 in December 30th, you can send them to school.
Yeah, it's funny how this works, because I know I've heard other Americans talk about Well, you can time it certain ways where your child will go into kindergarten and start out like as the youngest possible, you know?
Yeah.
Or by the time kindergarten comes around, they can almost be 5 years old, so they will be. But basically, if you want your child to be one of the oldest in the grade or one of the very youngest possible, you can kind of tinker with the application dates a little, I think.
So
Yeah, it all has to do with the year you're born versus when the school year begins, right? I mean, that's just math.
technically, your kid won't be 4 when school started. And
Yeah.
school started here, by the way, first Monday of September. It's not September 1st like in some countries. It's
Right.
first Monday in September. And even sometimes Monday could be long weekend. Uh, so you can send kids on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
And
Labor
when
Day.
you
Look at these buses, man. That's one thing that I don't think
Standardized.
changes in North America, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
A school bus, a yellow school bus, is just a school bus. It should be one of the symbols of North America, because a school bus is just a school bus. It
Yeah.
always looks the same.
And school bus
get
yellow.
application package. You can apply for school bus if you live outside of the area of the walking distance, or if you don't have a car and you need some help with the school buses. Sometimes they have some small fees for the bus, but they affordable. They like $40 or something a year. Sometimes I don't know. Honestly, we never
Yeah.
order school bus because we live pretty close to school, and usually we drop them off there before school.
Lucky.
Yeah, there have been times in my life where mostly I took the school bus, and my God, I never really had a car until I was outside of high school. I was always taking the dang school bus. Oh my goodness.
Ah, well, at least you had a dedicated bus that you didn't have to pay fare for, because when I was in high school, there were school buses like the one I rode on. It was a short bus. Yeah, whatever you feel that means, that's what it was, because it actually serviced 2 schools. There was one for the gifted and one for the remedial. It was actually the same bus for both schools. We got quite the experience with the 2 different levels of education we received, and the mannerisms that these people had. I went to the gifted school, so I was often found playing chess or cards with someone in my neighborhood. And then we were listening to the ridiculous conversations the remedial students were having. But I digress. The whole point I was getting at was that, yes, I was on a yellow bus, but there was also public transit. Like, it was in the Ottawa region, so it was the Ottawa public transit system. And yeah, I had schoolmates who had to buy a bus pass to last them the year so they could get home on public transit, which actually stopped in front of the school.
And this was before cell phones, smartphones were really a thing, so there was not any entertainment.
That's right. Had to make our own.
Imagine that. But there were times in my life where I lived a little closer to school and you could walk if you want. So
Yeah. There were times I'd get off school and I would walk to my friend's house because he lived nearby. Oh, those were the days. I miss you, boys. They're dead now.
But you can find out this information on the website. Each school, they have a website, and they have parental access to this website, so you have your own login and password, so you can always go there and check. Our kids, my older one, she's in
yeah, there's probably a lot more online stuff.
Yeah, the modern
In regards
perspective.
to public school, like parents being able to log into the school's website and stuff, that I'm not familiar with, because
Yeah.
my parents, the websites that existed when I was in public school,
They were
for
weak.
my parents were almost non-existent, hardly
Yeah.
used, just for information.
Advertising,
Barely.
maybe.
But now, in 2022, we're in the future, right? So
Yeah.
I can only imagine what
Now
kind
we're
of
in
technology they have adapted,
2023.
and incorporated into classrooms and
Yeah,
parents
imagine
and all
guessing.
sorts of stuff. It's
That's
great.
what I'm doing too.
Kindergarten right now. She's going to grade 1 next year. It's an elementary school. So we don't have much activities there because it's kindergarten. They learn a lot of stuff, but it's not like serious stuff. It's homework or something like that. It's very simple stuff.
Yeah.
So in my profile, in my cabinet, you can call it in any way.
Yeah, like when I was in junior kindergarten, it was mostly learning how to socialize. I'd already known how to read by then, so I wasn't doing much socializing. I was actually reading books. It was learning the structure of school. Of course, it was only half days. The needing to ask permission, the sitting in a circle for story time. It was senior kindergarten when we began with French, and that's when the French immersion started, and we really picked up the language. And there were still kids in that class that were learning how to read, and that continued for the first few years after kindergarten, where we stayed in the French immersion program. Alors c'est vrai, ça c'est la raison pourquoi moi je parle français. Ouais, c'est tout.
When I put my credentials there, I cannot see much activity except their schedule for the months and some
Cool.
PAs.
I mean, but it still is cool
Guessing
that you can
grades?
log in and look at what your child is doing on the calendar. At least that's cool.
It's
Yeah.
the day when kids usually at home because teachers, I don't know what they have some sort of activities. They have to get together, discuss some problems or some, I don't know, they have their own agenda. Sometimes public schools, they have French immersion classes. What does it mean? That
French immersion classes.
Yes, it means to be immersed in the language. Did I just have to say
I
that?
heard that correctly.
they teach everything
I didn't
in
have to.
French.
I just said it.
French immersion class.
Yeah,
Means
there you go.
French immersion.
It's immersed
Who
in
would've
French.
thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, and it makes sense because French is spoken in Canada, certain parts of
Second
Canada,
language.
to my understanding. I just think it's great to teach kids a second language, any language. Hopefully
Yeah.
one that's spoken a lot in your nation or around the world. So useful.
Very beneficial.
So many other nations in the world learn English.
Yeah.
And I feel like, man, they got all the power. They can understand me. I can't understand them. I'm really relying on them to be able to communicate with me, the simple American, only speaking English. I'm like, oh, dang it. I wish when I was a kid, someone had forced me to learn something, a different language.
It's really beneficial in that people who know more than one language will pronounce words more accurately to how they're supposed to be pronounced. So let's say the name Jose, right? Where someone who didn't know more than one language might say Josie, where we all know the name is actually Jose, or, Juan. The person who only knows English would make jokes that equate the name Juan to the number 1. Whereas the person who knows more than one language is like, yeah, it's just a different way to pronounce the name John, only it's more cool and accurate than a John, because John is just simple English and Juan is exotic.
And they kind of try. In America, they do make you take a language for like half a year, maybe a year, when you're already, but it's when you're already 12, 13, 14,
Yeah.
or 15 years old, pretty old.
So we have early French immersion, starts in senior kindergarten, grade 1, and then late French immersion starts in grade 7, and late French immersion is not as successful as the early French immersion.
All things considered, if they were teaching you a new language when you were in first grade, or, that young,
Yeah.
I think kids are much better at
Souvenir.
learning that. So,
Apprenez,
just something I
souvenir,
wish would have happened. So it's great
appliquer,
that they have a
appeler,
French immersion classes
parler.
in Canada. I like that a lot.
They
comprendre.
have English only like like subject, like separate subject, like few times a week, and it's a great experience if you want your child to know French. And usually, they can start in grade 1. They don't have a French immersion program in kindergarten.
Yeah,
Ah, alors t'es chanceux là.
started all the way in first grade. Yeah, that's amazing. That's great.
So kids will speak and learn everything in English, and it's a good enough for them to know and to keep this language. And in French immersion, I think it's a great idea for them to learn. And I know some kids who
get a government job,
speaks fluently French after French immersion school.
Oh yeah.
Really? I mean, it is amazing how fast children pick up things, especially when they're so young.
That's it.
I mean, they're learning all of English
It has to do with neuroplasticity.
when they're in kindergarten, less, even sooner.
Before, yeah.
So
The
it
first-
stands to reason that that's probably,
The first 3 years of life, they're basically just recording machines.
and I think they know this from studying the human brain, that children can develop language at a amazing rate when they are very young. So I'm all for it. I like it.
Why it's great? Because you know that Canada is bilingual, and we have 2 official languages. It's
They do this a little bit in some places in America, I think, with Spanish.
maybe.
Because I think
I
Spanish
expect
is the
that.
second most spoken language in the United States.
In Canada, though, in order to work with the government, being bilingual is a huge positive because of how many francophones there are. And to work in Parliament, you have to be bilingual. You can't actually be the Prime Minister without knowing English and French.
So yeah, I wish I'd learned Spanish.
English and French, and all government position and a lot of position they required knowledge of not just knowledge.
She
you
knows
have
it.
to speak French fluently,
Wow.
and it's a great benefit. First of all, when you go to
Yeah, it's just a benefit. It only opens more
ouais.
doors for you.
Parce que je suis bilingue, je peux payer $1 de plus par heure automatiquement.
visit, let's say, Quebec or New Brunswick, and you can express yourself in French, and of course to get a better position and get better paid in the future.
C'est ça, hein?
We have 2 types of public schools.
Make that money.
It's a regular public school.
And the Catholic.
Types of
I was yelling about money and I missed what she said.
public schools and get better paid in the future. We have 2 types of public schools.
2 types.
It's a regular public school.
Elementary.
In every area, and also we have Catholic schools,
Catholic
Catholic
school.
public schools.
I wasn't sure where she was going with this. 2 different types of public schools. But
not in America.
has Catholic schools.
Okay.
We just call them that.
That makes
We call
sense.
them Catholic schools.
We do
But
too.
They really are Catholic public schools. Some of them
Yeah.
are private schools where you have to pay if you want your child
I
to
mean,
go there.
yes. Some.
Yeah, this exists in America. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
They are free also. You don't have to pay. But sometimes they have
Some of these, sometimes in America, you do have to pay for these.
It's a
They
private
seem to be
versus
more,
public.
More often than not,
Yeah.
some of them are private Catholic schools. Yeah. So you would have to pay, but others are public.
uniforms, so you have to buy uniforms usually.
Yeah, they usually have uniforms.
It's like
Yeah.
once or twice a year. It depends on the age of child and
how fast they grow.
And maybe sometimes you have to pay for some, I don't know, some little stuff. We don't have experience with Catholic schools, so there is
I didn't go.
not much we can explain
I'm a
about
heathen.
I mean, the stereotype in the United States is that Catholic schools are extremely strict.
Yes, and
They're very
produce
strict.
repression,
And of course, incorporate teachings
which comes
of,
out later in life.
Catholicism, religion. I think
Wild
my
mannerisms.
mother went to a Catholic school back in the day.
Oh, she was a wild
where
lady.
they'd make you write on the chalkboard for hours and maybe smack you with a ruler if you broke the rules. So
I mean, that was just a
luckily
product
those
of the
days are gone.
times. Yeah.
Our kids go to regular public school, and we're very happy with that. And our youngest, she's almost 4. She'll be 4 in 2 weeks, and she's going to public school as well. The most interesting part that in your district could be few schools, like even few public schools, or one public school and one Catholic school, and it's up to you to find out this information before you send your kids. And you.
Oh yeah, it's a huge decision. I mean, it's gonna affect school for children. It's
the rest of their lives.
They're literally learning how to be a person. It could not be more important. It is so important. Which again, I'll bring it up again. You want to incentivize the teachers to do a fantastic job. Now in America, there's kind of a people love teachers, and they basically it's understood that they're doing the job for very little pay, and they're doing it because they love it, and they love the children. They love to teach. And they're very, very good people. But
they love to influence the future.
The teachers to
incentivize.
And such an important job. We have a teacher shortage now because you should pay them more. We have like a massive teacher shortage now in America. It's pretty bad.
You can also check ratings of the school on the website, and you can check all this information. It's available all the time. Also, we have private schools.
Yeah. I was wondering.
Yeah, some of those look so fancy. They've got to be private schools.
Anywhere in the world, people are going to want to make money off of kids, for lack of a better way to say it. So I'm sure there are private schools in Canada.
That's it, right? It's all about the money.
Sort of wealthier families can pay money to go to these fancy schools.
Like the art school that I wanted to go to when I was young, but we didn't have a way to get me there, so I couldn't have the opportunity.
With their kids, and nothing against them. You know, I phrase it like they're being snobs or something. But no, it's if they're in such a position where they can do that, that's perfectly fine.
Private schools, usually you have to pay some fees. Sometimes they are monthly fees, yearly fees, quarterly fees, it depending on the school, and they could be completely different.
Yeah, I've heard of American private schools where the parents have to pay $50,000 a year to send their child there. You know, that kind of level of crazy madness.
Can start.
That's like an average North American yearly annual salary. Yeah, verbal dyslexia kicking in there.
At $500 a month, and sometimes they are like 30,000 a semester. So it could be completely different depending on the level of the school, on the services they provide, and we have very fancy schools. Like St. Andrew's School, it's a very famous school located in Aurora, between Aurora and Newmarket, and it's.
I really can't think of any famous American private schools.
That's for a reason.
I don't know, but then again, I've had no real reason to think about them or learn about them, so I don't know.
They don't want you to know.
Very expensive school, and sometimes even if you have enough money to pay for this, they can refuse your application because you don't have enough connections, you don't have enough references.
Yeah. A lot of time these fancy private schools, they are built around connections,
about who you know,
even family donations,
networking.
It's starting
donations.
to sound like some kind of TV show or something, but it's true. It's really how the world works a lot of the time.
Yeah, networking.
We don't have again much experience about this type of schools, so this is pretty much all. It's basic information about school system in Canada.
From a parent's point of view.
Apply for to have your child to be placed in certain school.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, please you can always comment and send.
I think that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. She was going to talk about communication, like leaving a comment, sending the email,
fascinating.
nerdpopeking@gmail.com.
in terms of the information that I was gonna get, but it's
I mean, what? Did you expect a kid to make the video?
A great idea of just a very generalized picture of the school system in Canada. The public school system.
They
now
exist.
I know it's quite similar to the American public school system. Exactly the same, I'd say. Almost exactly the same.
They're a thing.
But gosh, I never knew that, and now I'm just kind of wondering if I could get a more detailed kind of description or experience of the school system, like in the classroom, what kids are taught, how they're taught, just like the school experience. I just want to see, is the public school experience the same in Canada as America? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a video like that.
I don't know how you'd get that video. Who's going to make it?
But for now, this answered a lot of the questions, the surface level questions I was having about just how stuff works and is organized with the school system.
Fair basics.
And, it all was quite familiar to me.
Exactly.
So, I don't know.
In the
Sometimes
classroom
these
should be
videos,
too.
How stuff works in Canada kind of shocks me with how different it is, because I'm always expecting it to be pretty similar to America.
It's pretty similar.
Something like this, like the public school system, which I wouldn't have been surprised if it was completely different, ends up being quite similar. So you just
basically
never know
the same.
What you're gonna get, man. Anyway,
like a box of chocolates.
If you enjoyed this video, this reaction, feel
or this
free
one,
to give it a
mine,
like, or leave a comment.
Do that, like, and type your thoughts. Videos like this, me reacting to him reacting to Canada.
Feel free to subscribe for more.
Yes.
And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you very much for watching. If you watched, and if you enjoyed, thank you for enjoying. I'm glad to bring this to you. I've been Jeff, also known as the Nerd Pope King, and I hope y'all just keep being awesome. Bye. Science. Spirit. Life. Nerd Pope King.